Good morning, American Dream Makers. I am Zena Krogadal, your host for today. And it is a lovely day, a little bit cloudy here in Arizona, and the monsoons are rolling in, but it is lovely because we don't always get the moisture here. So this morning, if you are joining in on us, please let us know that you're here. And also let us know that your name. So if you can go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give Facebook permission, we can see your name. Otherwise, at least post your name when you're giving comments. We love to have lively discussions here. Have an amazing guest this morning. Absolutely amazing. Aziz, came over from Afghanistan, was rescued back during the whole Afghanistan pullout debacle. And we're going to get to Aziz here real soon. But first, let me play the intro video and then we'll get started. Here we go. All right, I am back, American Dream Makers. I do believe that the American dream belongs to all of us. And not only can you achieve it, but you can go beyond. And our next guest here is definitely living the American dream right now. And it is because of some brave fellas that came over and rescued him. Now, I'm going to bring Aziz back on here. He was a guest about a year ago. So if you haven't heard that podcast, I recommend you go back and find it because it is an amazing story of bravery and what Aziz has done even for our country back over in Afghanistan and then coming over here. But without further ado, I'm going to bring Aziz on so we can talk about all this because it is great, inspirational and just an incredible fella you are, Aziz. Thank you so much for being here. You are a busy fella, Aziz. How are you this morning?
You're welcome. Thank you, Zena. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing really well. So Aziz and I met about a year ago. He was our honored guest. Him and Chad Robichaux came for our VA Rep, the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals fundraiser. And they were our keynote speaker and talking about how Aziz got saved. In fact, there's a whole book called Saving Aziz. And so you want to get your hands on that for sure, because it is a very, very good account of what has happened. Aziz, so the last time that we spoke, we talked about what all happened and what an amazing God story that was. I mean, coming over and, on a mission to rescue you and your family because you had dedicated so much of your life to helping us forward freedom, and so I'd like to maybe just kind of start off with, now that you have set foot on American soil, how many years have you been here now?
It's almost 3 years now.
Wow. Goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you have how many children?
6 children.
6 children, and your wife are all here in Texas. Tell us what it's like to be living in America and what that feels like for you.
Well, literally, this is actually a very great experience that I and my children and my wife have experienced and are still experiencing, because we have left our life on the other side of the world. I mean, it's much different over here because everything is done so greatly. Everything is achieved and prepared for the benefit of the nation, for the benefit of all the people that resides here. Everything is so perfectly done. Except the weather is a little bit different. Of course, it's Texas. You have all that humidity. Sometimes you see rain. It rains like shower out of nowhere, and you have no idea. Like, except in the morning when you come out of the house, you wear one kind of clothes. As soon as you're out of the house and you see the weather changes all of a sudden, without any expectation. Those are some crazy atmospheric changes that we see. But other than that, life is really great. The people over here all are really friendly people. I mean, Texas is known for friendship, for hugs. There is a lot of hugs. People are hugging. No matter if they know you or not, there's always hugging. There's always respect, honor, and there is a lot of things going on over here. And I'm so glad to be part of this community, this society, the people around over here. Most of them are Christians, pure Christian people, and they're all men of God, and they are always in the process of helping the poor, helping the people who are in need. Like, for example, when we first got here, we had nothing. We came here with a backpack, six children. That's always asking you for something, and they don't know that daddy is not that person anymore who was once. All that financial asset or all that economical condition, but the kids are always kids. Doesn't matter how big they grow, so they're always asking, hey daddy, I need this, I need that. But thanks to the churches over here, thanks to the family from the Mighty Oaks Foundation and all those American brothers and sisters that have contributed in helping me and my family. Like one of the biggest challenge for me over here was I didn't know how to enroll my children in the school. It was the people from the church that they volunteered their own personal time. They came to my house and they helped me with this process. They even used their own personal cars. They drove me to the schools to kind of meet the principal, the teachers, and get accumulated with the environment. I mean, there is much more than that. Like the first days were very boring days for all of us. First, because I didn't have a driver's license, I didn't have a bank account, I didn't have any credit cards, or everything is so digitized over here. It's not like back in Afghanistan that you have a big chunk of cash. You go everywhere and you use it. Even the taxi, like the Uber, if you need to go from one location to another location, you need to have an Uber account, but because you don't have a bank account, you cannot have an Uber account. So it's very hard for the people who arrive here at first, but then later on, slowly you get used to it. And there's too many sign-ups everywhere you go. Sign up here, sign up there.
Yeah.
It was hard, but later on, right now, we're all used to it. My children, my wife, even my wife, she got her own driver's license. I mean, can you imagine for an Afghan woman who never drive a car before in her life, but today, she has her own car and driver's license. She's driving back and forth between the job, the house, and taking care of the children and the family and all the day-to-day life. And my daughters, on the other hand, my older daughter, she is going to the martial arts, something that she would have never received or experienced in her life while residing in Afghanistan. Right now, she is training the children. She's a black belt, martial arts, taekwondo master, and she is traveling with her team to the tournaments. And my other daughter, who is at the Magnolia High School, she's enjoying it. She has her own friends. And for my son, one of my son, he is playing the American football or soccer. I'm always confused. It's the one that it has a ball like the watermelon. Is it the soccer or the football? I'm always confused about that.
Well, yeah, because we call it football here, yeah. American football, but the rest of the world calls it soccer.
Soccer, yeah, right? That's exactly. I mean, yeah, my son is always arguing about that. He's like, Daddy, you need to learn this by now. I'm like, man, I'm confused always. Every time I try to explain something about that, he's trying to correct me. And he's growing taller than me. And sometimes he tells me that I'm growing. And I think it's because of that American football. So praise be the Lord. Everything is well. I mean, the resettlement, the adjustment process, the accumulation process with the society. It's so awesome. The first night when we landed here in Houston, our first meal, From Texas was the Whataburger, which I didn't know that a lot of people make fun of that, but because it was late and the children were hungry, restaurants were not open, and one of our friends who was there at the airport to pick us up from the airport drove directly to the Whataburger, and we got a bunch of burger. Up to this day, they are making fun of that. So I don't know what's that much funny about that, but every place or every food, every restaurant has its own ups and downs, and people are talking about it. But overall, life has been so perfectly awesome over here, and there are still a lot more to learn. And I myself, I'm working as a cultural advisor for the Mighty Oaks Foundation. For those of you that they don't know the Mighty Oaks Foundation is a nonprofit that serves the Lord, that serves all the veterans and first responders and their spouses who are struggling with PTSD. So it's an honor to be part of this organization. When I came here at first, I took the program and I really enjoyed it. And I found all the potential inside myself, how to overcome all the trauma, because I have been through so much trauma. And that really helped me to help my children and my wife. And now, praise be God, everything is perfectly nice and well. There are not much traumas because every day we're connected with God and with the Word of God. And by that, we are just feeding our spirits to continue the life. And when I came to Mighty Oaks, I saw that there is a big need for another community who are our allies, the Afghan community, especially here in Texas. I heard one of the Afghan soldier, the National Army soldier, hanged himself in
Oh,
Houston, and he finished his life. And then there was another girl that she actually terminated her life out of boredom, out of trauma, and there were no help for them. And at the same time, there is a friend of mine in Wichita. She contacted me. She's a very pure Christian lady, and she said that this Afghan community, over 800 families are over here, and they're struggling with a lot of trauma. So after hearing all that bad news, I actually talked to my team, especially the guys who are the decision makers in the Mighty Oaks Foundation, and we came up with this plan to have a main legacy program for our international allies. And right now, I'm also the director of that program, where I go out, I preach, and I explain the benefits of the main legacy program for these people. Although there is a cultural difference because they come from a Muslim community, and when we run these programs or teach the program, this is more from the biblical point of view. It's more scripture for the healing purpose, but still I try to explain to them. I'm like, hey, you need to understand these are the benefits. This is where I was personally, my family, my children, and this is where I am today. Look at me. I'm the example, and I have, out of love, out of respect, and out of honor, I'm here to invite you to come to this program. I mean, I talk like to hundreds of people, but sometimes, some people sign up and some they don't sign up. There are always challenges about that, but luckily I have been able to have three different programs. Like one program, we had around 18 Afghan men, and another program, we had around 20 men, and another program, lastly, that we did, there was around 16 men, and they all embraced it. They embraced it, and at first they were not coming, but once they came and they saw the benefit of it, and how our instructors delivered the classes, the presentations, and once they were seeing everything and they enjoyed it, then they're like, hey, our children needs this, our families need this. But for that one, because we do not have female instructors on our international department, so we are planning sometime soon or later next year, hopefully we will have female instructors so that they can directly talk to the female and teach the classes to the female, because the the problems and the traumatic issues in our lives are different. Like, for example, a man can talk to a man very openly. Sometimes there are some things a man cannot tell to his wife, but he can easily tell to his friend, a friend who he trusts, a friend who he can get a better advice from. So, therefore, we are actually planning to have programs for the women as well. But praise be God, at least we have it for the men. And I have not just sat back over here to enjoy life. I have been still serving, and I'm serving, and it's an honor to serve. Like for the American veterans, there are VA programs, there are recovery programs. When they come back from combat, it's hard for them to redirect from the military life to the civilian life, and they are full of challenges and the trauma that they have been. It's hard for them. But for the Afghan community and other immigrants who are the international allies and are now in the United States, there are not much programs like that. But luckily, Mighty Oaks Foundation is actually, because of their heart and love that they have for our allies, they let me to do that, and I'm really happy.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate your service, your continued service. That's amazing, Aziz, that God has rescued you from Afghanistan to begin with. And again, if you did not hear the story of how Aziz was rescued and the vision, the dream that God gave him, it's an amazing, amazing testimony. So you guys need to go back and see how God not only rescued him physically and his family, but he also rescued him spiritually, because he is a believer of Jesus now. And so praise the Lord, praise be God to that. But Aziz, you had said something that was pretty phenomenal. I kind of want to go back just a little bit. You talked about how your wife got a driver's license. And that was, who would have thought that a woman, an Afghan woman, would have been able to have learned how to drive and get a driver's license? What was that moment like for your wife and you the day that she received that driver's license?
Well, honestly, it's she was full of joy, full of happiness, and even for me, for myself, it was a pride, and it still is a pride. One, because women also has the right to live their life fully, to the extent with all the freedoms that God has given to the human beings, from the time of birth all the way to the time where they end their life, where their life ends by God. So this was actually something that my daughters and my wife was excluded from, this privilege, from this right to drive a car and be part of the society and walk and act as a free human being. So that means a lot to me and to my wife and my daughters. And but we are so happy about that, and we are so blessed, and we feel ourselves so lucky, because still there are hundreds of thousands or millions of people who are deprived from this kind of from having this kind of right. Like, especially one of the biggest example is Afghanistan. When you look at the women, the life of the women, they are born to a family. They live their life like a slave inside a walled compound or home, all the way when they grow up. And during that time, they are under the pressure of their father, their brothers, and because they are pressuring them to cover their face, do not talk to the men, do not go to school, you cannot have a job because you are a woman, and a woman is only meant to be, to stay in the house and serve the men, do the laundry, do the cooking, do the garbage, all these different things. But over here, from the blessing of the unity of this nation, and the hard work of the leaders of this country, every man and woman is able to have their own right. And even the other good news is that my older daughter, she also got her license, which she's now she's looking for a car. Now that's another. Actually, I will call it a problem for me. Now I have to work hard to make more money to buy her a car, but someday she will have her own car. Right now, she's using sometimes my car, sometimes my older son's car, or my wife's car. We have three cars right now because we are eight people, and still that's not enough. But I have hope, and I'm not disappointed. I'm really happy what I have, and I appreciate the Lord for that one. So it's really interesting, and this is something that we would have never thought about, something like this that we would experience in our life. So it's all the blessing of the Lord that He granted this to us, so that my children can and my wife can enjoy their life according to the full extent that God has meant to be.
Yeah, what freedom you're getting to live, what freedom is, that you didn't have, and what a blessing it is for you as a father and a husband to see that the women in your life are living a freedom that they would not have been able to, in back in Afghanistan. So that's amazing. And that when you were talking about that reminded me of when my friend went over to be a missionary in Kurdistan,
Oh,
and she talked about how she went to the car lot to look for a car because they were needing a car, and the look that she got from all the men at that car lot, she realized, oh, I guess women don't shop for cars out here. and,
exactly. It looks very weird if a woman walks by to a car lot to ask about the car or even bargain about it. It looks really off the hook.
yeah,
It's not something that the women would do in those countries. I mean, there are some Islamic countries like Saudi Arabia and Dubai and Kuwait or Bahrain, these countries that they have allowed their women to have this privilege of having a car or driving on the road and be part of the community. But in Afghanistan, it was darker. During the democracy era, we tried a lot to provide and make the situation in a manner where every man and woman can enjoy their life to the full extent. But some women were capable of getting their freedom. Like I remember some girls were able to join the Olympics. Some girls were able to get jobs like as a doctors or nurses or teachers in many different parts. Even in the Afghan parliament, we were the witness of the having the girls and women over there to be part of the community and part of the parliament, so that they can raise the voice of all the other women. But I mean, women in general during the Republic era, the 20 years of democracy in Afghanistan, enjoyed also their lives to the full extent, especially those women who really wanted to have their freedom, those who really wanted to live the life according to the orders of God and according to this 21st century. But unfortunately, when this black dark regime came back into power, the poor women is dead. They're totally dead. Women, girls, when they are 6 years old, they are not allowed to come outside of their house. Even if they are sick, there has to be a male standing with them, nearby them, while the woman is fully covered. Then they have to take them to the doctor or hospital or clinic or wherever.
mm,
And the women that were teachers, they took away all their jobs, and they told them that they have to sit in their house, because if they do not sit in their house, and the excuse that the Taliban are using, they say that they get attracted to the women. When they see the women, they cannot hold their feelings. So because they don't want to see the women get attacked by their soldiers, and that's one of the main reasons that they are saying that they want them to stay inside their house. But that's not true, because we all know who Taliban are. I mean, what would you expect from a bunch of barbaric and terrorist groups that all they know is how to slaughter, how to kill, how to eliminate, and how to explode the bridges or the electricity cables. I mean, all their life they have done all those things against the humanity, against the principles and orders of God. Nothing is very rational when they are defending from it. The poor women, there were we had like I do not have the exact number, but there was like hundreds of thousands of women that were widow and they had orphans, but luckily they had a job, and from that job they were able to bring the pension and feed their children. But today even that is taken from the women in Afghanistan, and they are totally marginalized. They are pushed to the edge, and they are pushed that they need to stay in their house. I see today that a lot of countries or NGOs, they send money to Afghanistan, they send humanitarian aid to Afghanistan, but that is not going to those women who are really in need. That's not going to those girls who are really in need. It's going into the pockets of whoever is in the power, like the Taliban, their leaders, and the Pakistani generals who are their bosses, who are actually running the country. The country is run by the Pakistani generals of the ISI. In each Afghan ministry, there is one or two Pakistani generals. They give them the agenda, they give them the day-to-day flow of work. And then the Taliban, on the other hand, the barbaric people who are also, most of them are Pakistanis. They are not Afghanis. They are Pakistanis. And the problem that's over there is actually a tribe in Afghanistan. It's called the Pashtun tribe. And this tribe was actually divided by drawing this Durand line in the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. So some of those Pashtun tribes stayed on the other side, and some of them stayed on this side, on the Afghanistan. Those people, they're actually throughout the history, throughout the years that I remember, they are actually playing like a double citizenship. Like they're seeing whichever party is in power, whichever party is having the ruling order on their hand, they are sliding to that side. But most of the time, these people, especially on the other side of the border, they have been used as terroristic groups. Like at the time when Al Qaeda was over there, they were called Mujahideen. It's the same exact people. They were used to work with the Al Qaeda through the ISI of Pakistan. And then after that, they named them Taliban. Nowadays, they are regrouping and they are training another terroristic barbaric group. They call them the ISKP, which is the Islamic State of Khorasan province. What their ideology is. Their ideology is that they actually hate all the Christians, all the Jews, anyone who is not according to their ideology. They hate them, and they think that they should be eliminated. And guess what? Nowadays, whatever money that's being sent, I'm not sure from which country, but there are on the news, I can see it, that they say every 2 weeks there is around like $40 million that's sent from United States to the Taliban. I'm not sure about it. It's on the news, and that's what people are talking about. But that money is being used for retraining the terroristic groups. Because I still have guys over there in Afghanistan that every day they tell me that since the Taliban took over Afghanistan, they made more than 25,000 madrasas in many different parts of Afghanistan. And what is a madrasa? Madrasa is a religious school. What do they teach in that school? They teach them that the Christians are infidel, the Jews are infidel. Anyone who is not a Muslim, anyone who is not having an opinion or thoughts or the outfit or the whole system that's not according to the Taliban or to the ISKP or according to the Al Qaeda, they should be killed. They should be eliminated. Why? Because they teach them that this is the order of Allah. Allah has said this, and they have made such a fake hadith Hadith is actually something that comes from the Prophet Muhammad, according to the Muslim community, like whatever has Muhammad preached or said, that's called hadith. But nowadays they are making some fake ones also just to justify the killings of all the people that's not according to them. And it's very sorrowful that I hear this news and I see it physically happening in Afghanistan. I'm afraid if this system continues like this, then this will be very hard to control the bad guys, because they will spread out of the borders of Afghanistan, and that's what they are planning. They are planning to make one Islamic state, which is called Khorasan. They want Pakistan, Afghanistan, India. They want Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all those countries that's around them, and they even want Saudi Arabia. That's in their agenda. Internet is full of their statements. You can go and search, and anybody who have a question about the the reality of this, they can go and search. It's full out there. But for me, because I have people over there, I have relatives, they tell me this information from over there, and it's not lies, it's true. So they are planning, even like Saudi Arabia, all those other Islamic countries that are there, they are planning that one day they will go and they will capture all those, and they will make like a more huge United States of the Islamic Emirates of Khorasan or something like that, which is very dangerous. Right now, it's controllable. It's easy to control them because they are only isolated based in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and they have been living in Pakistan for centuries. The world knows about it. The big powers knows about it, but unfortunately, I'm not sure why they are not taking an action against these people. And one of the other reasons that I see today, from the day that the Taliban took over, you know how many private, public, and international schools, universities, institutes are closed from that day. Why? Because they want to keep the people in darkness. When the people are kept in the darkness, when they are hungry, they have nothing else to do, they send their children to these madrasas. Why? Because they need food to eat, they need water to drink, and they don't have it by themselves, so they have to go somewhere. The only option for that third generation of Afghanistan which is available is this the Taliban and their madrasas and their barbaric regime and their terroristic agendas and ideas. And I'm afraid maybe after one decade, all this the third generation will also act the same like them, because they are being brainwashed, they are being taught, and they are being given a very false thoughtfulness in their mind. So when they look at me or they look at you or somebody else who travels from here to that area, they think that they look at us like if somebody goes into the jungle and hunt a deer or something. That's how they are looking. It's very dangerous. It's the reality. Every day they are growing, and even though that the other bad part is that I saw that this guy Sarajuddin Haqqani, who is the interior minister of Afghanistan right now, and he was the head and the trainer of the suicide attackers from Miran Shah of Pakistan to Afghanistan. And then at that time, the United States put I think it was like $10 million bounty over his head, that whoever captures him. But today he travels to Saudi Arabia, he travels to the United Arab Emirates, he travels to Qatar, and no one is saying anything. They are just trying to normalize the barbaric group, the terroristic group that have killed hundreds of American lives, that have killed millions of Afghan lives. All those so-called humanitarian organizations, the UN, or I don't know, there are so many of them. No one is really criticizing. No one is at least raising a voice that these animals should be banned from traveling. At least if we cannot do this, We should stop aiding them financially. We should put them on the terroristic lists, and we should ban their travels, because if we don't do, they are growing. And when we are paying to help the terrorists to grow, and then one day when they hurt us, we have no place to complain.
Yeah, those are all really great points that you point out. So just to help us and the viewers to clarify, as you say, they put up these schools called
Madrasas.
madrasas. Okay, and so in Afghanistan, kids are not required to go to school like in the United States, and
No,
so
no,
only
they're not required.
so only those that are able to can send their kids to school. So not everybody's educated in Afghanistan. Is that correct?
Not everybody is educated in Afghanistan. The thing is that, one, people cannot afford education because they are using their children to work on the street and find a piece of bread. But that was possible during the Republic because there was a lot of organizations, there was a lot of international and local organizations, government organizations that were over there. They were giving jobs to these children and these people. But nowadays, all those international organizations are closed. Like, as I mentioned before, the institutes, the universities, the schools, all these places, the labs, computer labs, science labs, they are all closed. Why? Because they say that these schools were made by the infidels, meaning like America or any international country. They say that the curriculum that was put in the system to teach those kids, then they were becoming like them. Now they are, the reason why they closed them all, because they say and they think that this is not Islamic and it should be banned. So instead of that, all those universities and schools which were equipped according to the international norms and standards of education, where all the people have access to it globally, it was put in the system like that in the democracy era. But right now, they are closed, they are banned, and some of them are burned. Some of them are their equipments and computers have been stolen and sold on the black markets by the Taliban. And instead of that, they are offering the madrasa school. In the madrasa, there is nothing. There is nothing but all those fake hadith that they make them in Pakistan, and they bring them to Afghanistan, and they teach the children of Afghanistan. But because these families who are stuck in Afghanistan right now, like for example, a widow, she recently or 3 years ago, she lost her job. She's a widow. She has 4, 5, or 6, or sometimes 10 children. They have the families are larger over there. They have extended families and a lot of children. And now these children are hungry. There is no job. There is no international NGOs to give job to these people. There is no those universities or schools. There is the hospitals, the clinics, all those other construction, logistic, transportation NGOs. Like I myself, I had a company at that time in Afghanistan, like a logistics company, that I was able to create jobs for more than 132 Afghan men and women in different segments. But today they are all gone. So they are all hungry. They are starving to death. There is no hobby. There is nothing to do. So out of hunger, poverty, and out of having not a job, the families are obliged. They send their children to the madrasas. Why? Just to eat 3 times of meal. And when they eat the 3 times of meal, is it free? No. They bring them in first. They teach them. They brainwash them. They tell them about you, me, America, all these other countries. They tell them that they are all, anyone who is not like the Taliban, they are infidels. Like the Saudi Arabia is an Islamic country. Even they say that the Saudi Arabia is not an Islamic country. Like the United Arab Emirates is an Islamic country. But the Taliban say, no, that's not an Islamic country, because they have let their wives be like the infidels, because they let their wives to drive, because their wives have a job, because they do this and that, because they have copied from the West. I mean, they have so many barbaric reasons and they are spreading this among this third generation of Afghanistan, which I'm afraid that's going to be really, really dangerous for the future of the world.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, then, so you were there, obviously, for quite some time, up until 3 years ago, with the presence of the United States military there. Was there a difference that had occurred to kind of put the brakes on some of this, or from what I'm hearing is like that's really going on quite a bit now. It's almost like it's getting out of control. There's nobody there to really, I guess you would say, police or put the brakes on. So, what difference was it having the presence of the United States in Afghanistan then?
Right now, it's Afghanistan and the human being life is totally two different things.
Okay.
Because the whole country is captured and controlled by this barbaric regime, the terrorists. Taliban is over there. The generals of ISI of Pakistan are over there. The ISI, from the day that was founded, if you go to internet and you study their history, all they are doing is they are creating and generating terroristic groups. They were sending them to India, to the neighboring countries, and especially into Afghanistan. How many regimes have been overthrown by the ISI, through the ISI of Pakistan, by creating these barbaric terroristic groups? The country is controlled by using the coercive force, gun, cables, anything like animalistic behaviors. A woman, if they see a woman walking by herself on the street, they stop the car, they come out, they hit the women with the guns, they hit them with cables, and then they put the women in the car, they take them to their prison. When the woman is in their prison, internet is full of the Afghan women interview who came out recently from the prisons of the Taliban. Then from the night, what they do, they tell the women to take off all their clothes. All these barbaric people, they smoke marijuana, they sit back there and they watch the women. And they make fun of the women. They tell them that you want democracy. And the woman, poor woman says, yes, I want democracy. Then they tell them, okay, take off all your clothes. Democracy means this. Democracy means to take off your clothes and show all your private parts to the male. They make fun of them. They bully them, and then they gang rape them, and they torture them. But they use pliers and they cut the meat, the flesh from the hips of the girls, from their arms, and then at the end, like most of them, they killed them and they cut them into pieces. Then they put them in the bag and they threw them on the streets of Kabul. The examples are there on the internet, and if somebody needs it, I can always send them the link. But if day-to-day life is that's how the day-to-day life. But then on the other hand, they are not also, like as I said, widow women. They don't have a male support to go with them to the market street or to the doctor. But then they force them. They're like, okay, marry a Taliban soldier, because they say that they can have 4 wives at the same time. Like the Taliban soldier, he already has a wife. Now he's marrying the widows, and now he's producing more terrorists. So if the father of somebody is a Taliban, so the children, when they grow up, they become exactly like him. And then for the male, they get stopped. Their phones are being searched. For example, if somebody is at the age of me or younger, they are really in danger in Afghanistan, because they think that if they let all these young generation to walk freely on the streets, then one day they will probably try to do a revolution against the Taliban. They are afraid of the revolution, and that has been done in the past, like back in the 90s when they were over there. All the young people, they did a revolution against them in many parts of Afghanistan. And there is no employment. There is no judicial system. There is no freedom of rights. You cannot say anything about them, against them. You cannot talk about the realities, about the truth. They have banned the education for men and women, especially the modern education. They are against it, like everything that's modern. Like they all want the education that needs to be done according to their will, which is the madrasa. In the madrasa, what do they teach you? They teach you hate, they teach you killing, they teach you how to put bombs on yourself and go out and kill other people. I mean, they brainwash the people just like themselves, and a very heinous gender apartheid is going on against women in Afghanistan. And I think the international community, especially the countries that are actually trying to interact with the Taliban, they should act now, and they should stop their interaction. They should stop their financial aid, and they must bring the Taliban into trial and bring all kinds of pressure on them. Otherwise, if they let them like this and feed them with dollars and food and everything, of course they are gonna not care about the main principles of freedom and human rights.
Wow, that's quite an enlightenment of giving an understanding of the insides of all that's taking place. And yeah, you're right that is a scary future to think about. And so we, first of all, absolutely need to be praying that God would intervene.
Amen.
And first and foremost. But you're right, we got to cut off their financial support.
Yes.
So those of you that sitting there like, gosh, how do I support the women? How do I get money to them if that's not where it's really going? And I'm thinking that is there a way that people can give that it would go directly to the women? Or
right now, actually, I'm helping like over 50 families that I know of, that they are really, really in the need of the very basic things in their life. And most of them are women. And they are the women that they are widows, that they do not have a job, they do not have a shelter, they are starving, and everything is taken from them. So luckily, the Western Union is still working, and I use the Western Union to send them money directly. But then the women cannot come to the Western Union to pick up the money. So I use my friends and my relatives to go to the Western Union and pick up the money, use their ID and everything, and then I give them the address of these families through phone and everything, and they go to behind those places and find these people. They give them the money, but then as a proof, they send me like a little video of it. So while they're talking and giving and receiving, they make a little video so that way I can trust who is receiving the money that I sent.
So if any of you
like anything internationally, like for example, if a big NGO, I mean, that's what I do is very less. It's very less. It's like when you get like 2 pieces of rice from 1 bag of rice. It's that much, But there is an opportunity for the NGOs and people, if they want to help, if they go directly through the Taliban, then it's not going to the poor.
Yeah.
It's going to the hands of the Taliban. They get it because they directly has influence over the process of the distribution, over the process of the humanitarian aid. They receive them, they take them, and then they make lists. The Taliban commanders, they make lists of their own relatives and families, and then they give it to the NGO and tell them that you should distribute in this area only. You don't go to the other area because it's not safe for you. I mean, they have their own barbaric reasons somehow just to manipulate and turn the situation according to their own benefits.
Yeah. So I've got your information up on the screen here, Aziz at mightyoaksprograms.org. So if anybody has it, feel in their hearts that they want to help out some women and children in Afghan, please get a hold of Aziz, and he can help you with that. But don't send money. What he's saying is don't send money directly to these organizations that are asking for it, because they're not going to where you think they're going. So I want to, absolutely emphasize that Aziz says that, if you truly want to help, we want to make sure that the money gets to where it's supposed to go, not in the hands of those that are really wreaking havoc. And like you said, if it spreads, it can be a real problem worldwide. It's not just Afghanistan. Aziz, as we wrap it up, you touched on some really great things, because I think a lot of Americans, and I come from an immigrant family myself, and so I understand, the issues of adapting to a new culture and that sort of thing can certainly be challenging. And thankfully, there are so many great people with big hearts out there that truly want to help, no matter what your skin color is, no matter what your background is. Thankfully, there's a lot of great people out there, no matter what political things are going on, that they don't hold it against individual families and individual persons, that they truly want to help acclimate. So I'm grateful and thankful for those that really helped you, Aziz, and your family to get acclimated. And you are a true success story. I mean, 3 years, you are working with Mighty Oaks Foundation, helping veterans. You just continue to pour out and help, and God is going to continue to bless you. That is for sure. But as we wrap it up, as I'm hearing about the stories of how awful it is for women in Afghanistan, and for us as Americans, I think we take for granted sometimes the freedoms that we have. And I know that there's women issues that American women are concerned about and go through. But when I hear about what you're talking about, the women issues in Afghanistan, wow, we as American women have come a long ways. I mean, the fact that I can even interview you here on the internet, a woman, interviewing you as a man, that's freedom in itself, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So it just must thrill your heart so much that your wife and your daughters no longer have to live, and that you have to be scared for them in that manner, that when you're off to work, that you don't have to worry about what's going on to the extent that, that was going on in Afghanistan.
Right.
So Aziz, as you have come on to 3 years of living the American dream, attaining the American dream, what does it mean most to you, like, to see your children get an education that not all Afghanistan people are able to get? As you're watching your children grow, what thoughts and emotions go through your spirit?
Well, honestly, at first it's all joy and happiness, and I'm grateful for what God has blessed me with, because this was the dream of myself from the very childhood, to see my children grow up in a very peaceful environment and have all their freedoms to the full extent. And that was one of the main reasons when I joined the United States military in Afghanistan, because we all had the same goals. We had a common ground to eliminate the bad guys, endure freedom, establish democracy, and raise awareness, and let the people to enjoy life according to the natural principles of life that God has granted us with. And but at the same time, half of my heart is in pain and burning for all those relatives, friends, families who didn't get lucky to be saved, who are still stuck over there on the other side, and especially to the children of those soldiers, interpreters, and contractors of the Afghan army, that when the regime collapsed, some of them, they got lucky and they got evacuated with their families. Some other, they got lucky to save themselves, but their families stayed behind over there. Some others, because they didn't have the documents, they were not allowed even to enter the airport. So what they did, they ran away to the neighboring countries, like Pakistan, like Iran, like Turkey, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan. But How were they welcomed over there? They were not welcomed over there. They were arrested, they were tortured, and they were put in the jail. And some of them were sold to the Russian army to fight against Ukraine. And some other are still inside the prisons of those countries that I mentioned, all those Afghans and the soldiers, like the India's guys, the Afghan National Police, the Afghan National Army, the KPF guys, the Zero Unit guys. Not everyone got lucky to be evacuated. Only very few, like the thousands of people got lucky, but most of them, they ended up in a very bad tragedy where the family stayed back in Afghanistan and their children stayed over there. They are starving to death. They don't have any support. They don't have somebody to look after them. And their only male provider, they actually stayed in the. They are still over there, and there is nobody to go, because in Afghanistan there is not a government who should be responsible, who should be actually doing these talks with these countries to release these people. Some of those people who didn't get arrested, who just joined like a restaurant or a car wash or somewhere they are working, but because they don't have a visa, because they don't have a passport, sometimes their bosses, they don't pay them their pension when they work, and they tell them all kinds of bad things. They tell them that you were spies for the Americans, now you deserve this, and they kick them, they humiliate them, and they bully them, and they say very bad things to them. And to be honest with you, half of my heart is here, half is over there still, and I'm praying that our Lord, our God, He has done a miracle in my life many times, and I'm praying that He would do such a miracle to see Afghanistan clean out of all these terroristic groups, so that every man and woman who are actually in the tragedy right now, who are outside Afghanistan, who are in the prisons, and I want to see a very accountable government in Afghanistan, so that every man and woman can reach and access and enjoy the benefits of it.
Absolutely. And from what I understand, God is moving in the Middle East like He hasn't before. The Christian church is growing an astronomical rate. And so our prayer absolutely needs to be targeted that God's Spirit would just continue to be poured out upon the Middle East, upon Afghanistan, and all of the countries there. Because that's really the only change that can truly halt things, is to change the man's heart. When a man's heart, right? When a man's heart is changed, then it is changed.
Exactly.
And so yes, please, viewers and listeners, join in on that prayer. We want to see the hand of God just move over our world, over the Middle East, and to protect the ladies that are just suffering, and the people who are suffering. And so thank you again, Aziz, for taking the time out to being with us today. Get a hold of Aziz at mightyoaksprograms.org. I've got it on the screen, AZIZ at mightyoaksprograms.org. And he's a friendly fella, as you can see. And so get in contact with him and connect with him. Blessings to you, my friend. It's always a real joy to have you on here. And I'm so grateful and thankful to you. And I'm grateful and thankful that the Lord put you in our path. And so I look forward to seeing you again in person one day soon. But if not here, then we'll definitely see each other in the air.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your time and this conversation. I really enjoyed it. God bless you, Zina.
God bless you too. And we'll say goodbye for now, but don't go away. We'll chat real soon. Thank you so much, you all, for joining in. And if you're watching on the replay, let us know and share this out. Aziz has an incredible message, an incredible perspective that most of us don't get to hear every day. Living here, we don't know what it's like in the Middle East. And so absolutely get this out. I think a lot of people need to hear, and it really helps us to have that attitude of gratitude, that heart of thankfulness, and then, pray about how you can help our brothers and sisters across the world. And so, um, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and, to American Dream Makers, to Zena Krogadal. Message me. I'd love to connect with you, and go out there and live that American dream.